On Mincha, on Shabbos Kodesh, we didn't say Tzidkos Chassid. The reason given in the halacha is because Tisha B'av is called a moed. Kara alai moed. It's a pasuk in Eicha we said today. What does it mean that Tisha B'av is called a moed? I mean, the pasuk talks about a moed, appointed time that the young people were counted. How could it be that it's called a moed? That's the reason not to say Tachanun. So Rabbi Yisroel, the Mashgiach of the Mir, and Rabbi Yisroel really, he was my Mashgiach's Mashgiach, is a Mashgiach of the 2 generations ago. Rabbi Yisroel says that there are Moadim of Kiruf and the Moadim of Richok. There are those Moadim that bring us close to Hashem, and there are those that make us feel distant. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, those are Moadim of Kiruv. That's the closest we come to the Borei Olam. But there's also one Moed of Richok, and that's the Moed of Tisha B'av. And what does it mean? It means that we have to try to feel the distance. There's something very special if we do feel the distance. Because there's a third level. There's Kiruv, there's Richok, and there's a third level that's much, much worse. That level, Rabbi Yisroel brings, is best expressed by Rabbi Yonah in Sharei Tshuva. He says, Tzadikim and Yesharim, people are straightforward, people are Tzadikim. He says they're always crying in their hearts. They don't always have it easy. They're regretting the mistakes they made, the chatoyim, and they're regretting their shortcomings and inadequacies in doing avodas Hashem. And they cry, Rabbi Yonah says, like a lioness. He says, but not so. Not so those people that have lost cheshbon. Those people who spend most of the time concerned about their enjoyments, their involvement in this world, and they have no time for Torah and no time for cheshbon and nefesh. The Kerev Libam Avad Cheshbon. Rabbi Yonah says, from the closeness of their hearts, there's no cheshbon. They're indifferent. They're apathetic. They don't care. That's the lowest level. It's much better to feel Richok, because that's also relating to Hashem. And in the words of the Baal Shem Tov, he said something with tremendous insight. It's so true. People who claim and think that they're close to Hashem can be very distant from Hashem. But people who feel distant are actually very close to Hashem. And that's the whole avodah of today. That's what we have to accomplish, to try to feel the Richok. But let's be honest with ourselves. Life is pretty hectic. There are a lot of distractions. We don't have too much time for thinking. It's becoming a lost art. We have little time for introspection. That's already a lost art. Most people feel life is pretty decent. Even without the Beis HaMikdash, life is pretty decent. And those who feel that life isn't so decent, it's not because of the Beis HaMikdash it's not decent. So it's not easy to feel on Tisha B'av the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. But that's the tachlis, that's the whole purpose of it. So I want to try to discuss, to try to get a little bit of feeling of what it is that we've lost. They tell a story that when the Chayalim first reached the Kosel in 1967, they finally liberated the old city, and they approached the Kosel, and anyone with any feeling just ran to the Kosel and started crying and davening. But there were 2 Chayalim that came from Kibbutz Hashomeh HaTzair. They had no upbringing. They didn't know what the Kosel was. And they're watching their brothers crying in the Kosel and praying and davening. They had no idea what's going on. They stood there till finally one of them also started crying. And the second one asked him, "What are you crying about?" He said, "I'm crying because I don't know what there is to cry about." And somehow I feel that we're all in that sort of situation. We know that the Beis HaMikdash was a different world. A different world. But some of us don't know what to cry about. What is the loss? I want to tell you, the Mishkiach writes in his Sefer, Miali Shur, he writes that the world without the Beis HaMikdash, the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, is the Chorban of the Olam. The world is destroyed, not just the Beis HaMikdash. The Chorban of the Olam, because there's no one place in the world with such Kedusha and with such Tahira, with such sanctity and with such pureness, that the Shekhinah could be there. There's no one place in the world that the Shekhinah, the presence of the Almighty, could be felt. And a world without that's not what the world was created for. You're just not... It's not a different world, it's a world of Chorban. Ika Shechina B'tachtonim. The Creator created the world for Him to be present here. That's the tachlis, that's the purpose of the world. And that's what we're missing today. So how do we feel it? How do we feel loss of it? How we can even explain it? Remember, fellas, we took the Shiva years ago to visit Rav Shach. And today we also go to Sikha Doilam. When we went to Rav Shach and walked into his home, we felt something very special. We felt he was covered in Torah. He was godless of Torah. Rav Shach, total entity, was devoted to Torah and Avodas Hashem. And no matter who you were, when we left that room, we took an impression with us that remained. It was a different experience. Somehow, the world was different because we knew that we were by Rav Shach. Sometimes in Yom Kippurim, I tell the story that there's a place on Har Tabor where if you ascend Har Tabor and you go on top of the monastery, you're probably not allowed to, but I wasn't religious when I went there. You go on top of the monastery over there, right? And you can see from the Kinneret to the Yam HaTichon, from the Mediterranean to the Kinneret. And you have the breadth of Eretz Yisrael. Once you have seen that, it remains with you. You're a different person. That's what Yom Kippur does also. A different year. So the Beis HaMikdash, if you multiply the feeling when you're by a Rav Shach 1,000 times, that's what the Beis HaMikdash was. And I'll tell you the truth. When I come to the States, I feel somewhat claustrophobic. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, I feel claustrophobic. Uh-oh. What happened? Help.
Needs a password.
Josh, we need a password. Something happened. I'm sorry, guys. We'll be back in a second.
I think it's probably still going. It's just...
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to continue.
Josh? The screensaver, I think, went on. We need the password to go back on. I don't know if it...
I'm not sure whether we're broadcasting or not broadcasting. There's a technical difficulty.
We're still broadcasting.
We're still broadcasting. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Right? So I feel claustrophobic outside of Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because here I know, even if I'm in Telstone or I'm someplace else, I know that I could go to the Kosel Maravi. By the way, I spent the last hour and a half of our Tisha B'av the Kosel Maravi. We davened Maimav there. We said Kiddush Levanim there. Among the thousands and thousands of Yidden coming to cry by the Kosel Maravi on Tisha B'av. And I know I could go to Kever Rachel, I could go to the Marsa Machpelah. I want to join the Rashbi in Meron, I can go there, and the Arizal in Sfas. And I go to the States, and You go outside, you just don't have that. So that feeling of what we have, multiply that times 10,000. And that's what the Beis HaMikdash was. Shlomo HaMelech was the wisest of all men. And yet, the Gadlus of Torah tells us that Shlomo HaMelech made a mistake. He darshaned time at the crow, which means that he gave reasons for the mitzvot and said that the reasons affected the laws themselves. So what Shlomo had said was that when the Torah says you shouldn't have more than 18 wives, a king shouldn't have more than 18 wives, he thought it meant what the Torah says, that they should lead him astray. Shlomo, knowing himself, said, I can have another wife, she's not going to lead me astray. And he had a purpose in having so many wives. He had a plan, and he was doing it. His malchus was spreading all over the world, and he was bringing the malchus of Hashem to all these nations. He was introducing them to the concepts of Hashem Echad. And so he made a mistake. He said, if I have an extra wife, she won't lead me astray. She didn't lead him astray, but he was held responsible for the fact that she continued to be Oved Avodah Zarah, right? So it's considered that he made a mistake. Now it's said that he never made that mistake so long as his Rebbe was alive. Rav Yaakov Weinberg Zatzal asks a very simple question. If that's so, why didn't he ask his Rebbe while his Rebbe was alive? If he darshed time at the Krah, and if he thought that you could have more than 18 wives, why didn't he ask his Rebbe while his Rebbe was alive? The answer? Because the mere fact that his Rebbe was alive, and he felt his Rebbe's presence, the thought did not occur to him. The thought did not occur to him. That's what the presence of a Rebbe, the difference can make. Quite often I had a very difficult child to go and ask Rav Volbe. And this should discuss with him. And I would come into his home and sit down, and as soon as I sat down and faced him, I realized what the answer was to the question. That's a Rebbe. That's having a Rebbe. Now, if you can multiply that by 1,000,000, that's what the Shechina is. The feeling in the Beis HaMikdash, that was the Shechina was. I want to give you, perhaps on the other side of the issue, I'm trying to show how the Beis HaMikdash could have created tremendous, the influence of it so that it changed the whole world. Hitler, Yamach Shemo V'Zichro, despised the Jews. He writes and he rants, and I quote, the Jews have inflicted 2 wounds on mankind. Circumcision of the body, the bris milah, and conscience on its soul, the matzpun, the conscience. These are Jewish inventions. Why was Hitler so obsessed with a minute and a small fraction of the world, a small nation? Why was he so obsessed with those concepts? Why did it bother him so that he had to create the final solution? The answer is because evil can't tolerate even the smallest amount of truth. And can you imagine what the Beis HaMikdash, the truth that emanated from the Beis HaMikdash? By the way, I want to tell you something. Tisha B'av is a bechi l'doros, the cry, that unnecessary cry of our people when the Meraglim came back. That cry was a cry for the doros. And we suffered in every generation. We were thrown out of Spain, even though the Gerush started earlier, but by Tisha B'av everybody had to leave Spain. and they left to a very uncertain gullus. Many of them were drowned in the ships that took them. Pirates attacked them for their gold and silver, and few of them reached safety. There's another date, July 23rd, 1936, if I'm not mistaken. July 23rd, 1936 was the day that the gas chamber in Auschwitz became operational. That day was Tisha B'av. The gas chambers of Auschwitz that killed close to 2 million Jews became operational on Tisha B'av. The Gemara in Baba Basra tells us about the beginning of yeshivot and schools. And the Gemara says that when the Chachamim realized that those who had a father were learning Torah and orphans, Yisomim, were not learning Torah, so they decided Shivu Melamdei Tinokas B'Yushalayim. They wanted to put Melamdei Tinokas B'Yushalayim. Why in Yerushalayim? The Gemara says, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah davar Shem Yerushalayim. That Torah comes forth from Tzion, from Yerushalayim. But Tosfos wants to explain it further. It was Bittul Torah to bring all the children to Yerushalayim. So Tosfos says that the children would see, they would feel the great Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash, and the Kohanim busy in Avodas Abayre. He would see them bringing korbanos and getting the things for the korban, bringing Ma'aser Sheni. All the activity was centered around the Beis HaMikdash. And Tosfos says, I quote, Mechaven libo yoser liyira shemayim v'lilmod Torah. That helped the children to pay attention and to direct their hearts to Yerushalayim and to learning Torah. So Skedai, all the time it took to come to Yerushalayim, just to be in the atmosphere of the Beis HaMikdash. Do you see, fellows, what we lost? We don't have today. That atmosphere, it made the whole Torah was different. Let's go even a step further, a little deeper. Now, everything that comes to this world comes through a tzinor, like a channel, a pipe. That's why a tzaddik can bring brachos to others, because he's a tzaddik, a channel for good things. He gives you a bracha, he brings the bracha of the Kodesh Baruch Hu to you. If someone chas v'sholom is jealous of you or angry with you, and he gives you an ayin hara, that means he becomes a tzinor, a pipe for hashpor, to bring midas adin where until now there might have been midas harachamim. We're always hopeful that Hashem is dealing with us in midas harachamim. We're hoping for that, because midas adin, it's not for us. But if someone is jealous of you, that could be ma'ara, that could awaken midas adin. That is the hashpor, it works through a tzinor. Where did the hashpor Torah Shabbat Peh come? Where did that, you're learning something, you have a kasha, a difficult Rashi, you have Rabbi Kivega, where do you get these Yad Shemayim to understand it? Where did the hashpor Torah Shabbat Peh come to us? Fellows who have learned about the Beis HaMikdash know. There's a kafta and perich of the menorah. The kafta and perich of the menorah, that was the channel. That's why Chanukah's the Yontif of Torah Shabbat Peh. That was the channel through which the kedusha and the tziyad shemai of Torah Shabbat Peh came. So without the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have the Torah that we had. And maybe that's what we say, that the Sefer, L'Sason of L'Simcha, it's a very good Sefer to learn about Tisha B'av. So he asks us, we say at the end of davening, when we've 3 steps backwards, we say, he read somber Fanach Hashem Elokeinu, Elokeinu V'seinu Sheyaboneh Beis HaMikdash B'meir V'yameinu, V'sein Chalkeinu B'sorasecha, V'sham Na'avodcha B'yira. Yeah, and then we say, La'aval Hashem Minchas Yehuda V'Yishalayim. We're talking about Avodah, we're talking about Minchas Yehuda and Yerushalayim, and in the middle we say V'sein Chalkeinu B'sorasecha. Why? That's the reason. Because once we have Minchas Yerushalayim, and once we have the Beis HaMikdash, the Torah is going to be so much more meaningful, so much more enlightening. And that's why the Sanhedrin was there at the Mokum HaMikdash. That was its home. Let's talk for a moment about tefillah. Let's talk about tefillah. I think almost all of us are aware of the Chazal. That B'yom Shecharev Beis HaMikdash Na'alu Sharei Tefillah. Chazal tell us that from the day of the Chorban, from Tisha B'av, Na'alu Sharei Tefillah, the gates of Tefillah were closed. What does it mean the gates were closed? It could be once Tefillah was like the Tefillah of Shlomo Eiga. Where Shlomo Eiga was once given a name to daven for. And he writes the person who gave him that name. I davened for so-and-so, and I wasn't answered. Perhaps you gave me the wrong name. Do you hear that? That's his clarity and certainty of tefillah was such that he felt he wasn't answered, he was given the wrong name. Maybe we don't feel that because the Sharei Tefillah are closed. And by the way, just one hope of... Someone asked me about this, and they said they feel that the tefillahs do go straight up there. And it could be that in Ikvasat the Mashiach, in the era that we're in right now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing up the tefillahs. It's very possible. But it would be so much more so if we had the Beis HaMikdash. The tefillahs would ascend in such a direct way. Close your eyes for a minute. There's so much going on over here. I can't even read it. Is anyone listening to the sicha? I see that the chat is a success. So I see tremendous, beautiful pictures of the Neveh guys and the Cordo. I saw your child. You know, it's. I wish it was. If it wasn't Tisha B'av, I would talk more about it. But I'm just wondering if anybody's listening to the sicha. Okay. This is a little bit. Close your eyes and imagine something. Yom Kippurim. The people were waiting. The Kohen Gadol has entered the Kodesh HaKadoshim. They're waiting for him to come out. I see our people listening. Thank you. Thank you. And the Kohen Gadol comes out. And one of the most beautiful poems, the Payat and Yom Kippur, tells what do we see when the Kohen Gadol comes out. Ashrei ayin rasa kole. The eye, happy, fortunate, the eye that saw such a thing, saw the Kohen Gadol coming out. Because as he came out, ka'ohel, hametach b'dorei mala, like the radiant chuppah, the canopy that spreads over all those that dwell above in the Shemayim. Marek Kohen. That was the appearance of the Kohen. His face was radiant. Brakim hayotzim meziv achayos, like the lightning bolts that come from the radiance of the angels. His face looked kidemus hakeshet betocha anan, like the rainbow coming from the cloud. Marek Kohen. Keveret hanotun betoch ganes chemed, like a rose, a perfect rose in the exquisite garden of desire. That was the way the coin looked. Kekochav hanaga b'gvul mizrach, mara coin, like the morning star in the eastern sky. That was the mara coin. Ashrei ayin rasa ko'el. We say it, we sing it in the beautiful nigun on Yom Kippur. Fortunate, happy the eye that sees such a thing. That's the mara coin. I'm going to say something which is very deep. If you would take all the attributes of Hashem, all His midosav. Now, about Hashem we don't know anything, right? Hashem Yisborach, Atzmusa, we don't talk. He's just infinite. But He revealed Himself to the world, to us, in midos and in spheres. Now, if you would take all those midos and spheros and somehow be able to make that a megushim, a physical form, you'd have mankind. You have man. You have the Tzelem Elokim. Right? That's, you see, in the Sforim, the Kedoshim of Kabbalah, you see that the man has, his head, Chochmah, Bina, Das, Teferes, Yisod, that's the Ota. Now, if you would have a beged that would bring out the tachlis of each limb, each aver, right? Let's say a beged would be designed as such, rather than allowing some pervert in France to decide what the style is, right? So you have a beged where each of the begadim that the person wears brings out the tachlis and the purpose of that person. That's beged kuna. That is beged kuna. When they would see the beged kuna, they would see the tachlis of the personification of man's purpose. They would say man in his shleimus, and they would instantly do tshuva. Mara Kohen. That's what we lost. That's what we don't have today. And I'll go one step further. Man is a dichotomy, right? You guys know, there's two parts to us, right? We have a Yetzer Tov, we have a Yetzer Hara. Do we always know which is the Yetzer Hara and which is the Yetzer Tov? I don't think so. Sometimes I'm quite confused. The Yetzer Hara can put on a pretty good act and convince us that he's giving us the advice for our own benefit. And it's way, way the other way. So there's confusion. You one hand you want to be ruchniistic, on the other hand you have to provide a livelihood. On one hand you want to be real close to Hashem, on the other hand you want to be careful of gaiva. We don't know. It's not a clear delineation. Because there's a lack of das. There's a lack of das. Now Chochmah is man. Bina. Chochmah is wisdom. Bina is davar mitoch davar. And das, das is the combination, is the chibur the two. Das is the chibur the two. That's what we learned in Praktips, fellows, right? The Adam, the man, is Chochmah, the Ish is Bina, and the chibur together is das. Yodeya Haya B'Tzalel. B'Tzalel, as young as he was, I believe he was 13, he knew how the tzaref ha'osios shebehem nivru ma'isa breshis. He could put the tziruf, the das, together. He could put the letters together that the world was created. He had to. Because he made the connection. The Mishkan was a connection between Shemayim and Va'aretz. The Mishkan is the Beis HaMikdash. Right? That's the connection. That's the chibur between Shemayim va'aretz. Whatever there is, it's in the midrashim in Tisha B'av. Wherever there is lamala, there's lamato, there's lamala. There's a Beis HaMikdash of lamala, and the chibur between the two is das. So the person who walked into the mikdash, that dichotomy, that conflict, that confusion. Where's the Yetzer Tov and where's the Yetzer Hara? Where's my neshama? Rabbi Yisroel. Where's my neshama? And where's my physical, my all of a sudden, you walked in the Beis HaMikdash, you had clarity. You could understand what was you. you could feel difference about yourself and the entire world. That was the beer of the Mikdash. Ashrei ayin, Masakoy. That's what we don't have today. And by the way, I asked my host Josh to find out for me, because we said before when Auschwitz, that the gas chamber started running on Tisha B'av. Right? So I always heard that World War I began on Tisha B'av. And I was looking through a history of the world, a world history, a book that has a condensed version of world history. And from all the dates about what was happening at that time, I said August 3rd is probably the time that is considered the war started. That's when Germany, I believe, entered Belgium and started its conflict. August 3rd, 1914 was Tisha B'av. Oh, it was 11th of Av. I'm sorry. It wasn't Tisha B'av. So August 1st was Tisha B'av. August 1st was Tisha B'av. That's when they all declared against each other. All right. We know it is meaningful, because we know that World War II was an outgrowth of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles was such that any historian would say that Germany would not long accept it, and eventually there would have to be another war. And that's what happened. I want to conclude by telling you that the first siman of the Shulchan Aruch, the first siman of Shulchan Aruch, it says, it's roy for every Yoreh Shemayim to feel the tsar of Tisha B'av. Roy l'kol Yoreh Shemayim yem mitzar v'doeg ala chorban, that he should feel the tsar and worry about the chorban of the Beis HaMikdash. So the Chidushei Arim asks a question. Chidushei Arim asks, why just Yoreh Shemayim? First of all, he says, look, we know that any generation where the Beis HaMikdash wasn't rebuilt, it is as if it was destroyed in that door. Called Dor Shalo Boneh Beis HaMikdash B'Yamav Kilu Echrivu B'Yamav. And we all have a chelik in it. Because if we would not have the sinas chinam that caused the fall of the second Beis HaMikdash, then it would be rebuilt. And certainly someone who doesn't have Yoreh Shemayim has a chelik in it. So why does the Shulchan Aruch say? Why does Yosef Cairo paskin that roy leYoreh Shemayim to feel the tsar and the aiga on the Beis HaMikdash? So Chidushei Arim, Zetzal says, he says that the reason why he probably said it was so that we shouldn't fool ourselves. Those without Yoreh Shemayim should not fool themselves, because they can't feel the lack of not having the Beis HaMikdash and all that is nogeya to Klal Yisrael. Someone without real Yoreh Shemayim can't really feel what's nogeya to Klal Yisrael. And he said, but he said, Ze atzmo is a siman that the person is b'chutz. If a person has no feeling whatsoever, and he can't be ma'or himself to feel the loss of the Beis HaMikdash, that's a siman that he's standing outside. And that alone is enough that he should cry to Hashem and try to do tshuva and try to feel on Tisha B'av the tsar and the pain of feeling outside of Klal Yisrael, because he can't relate to the Beis HaMikdash. Until the Chidushei Arim says, Ad Shirachamehu Hashem V'Yachnisu, should bring you together, bring you back into the Beis HaMikdash. Fellas, the fact that you tuned into this, that already tells me that you have shaykhs to Yoreh Shemayim, and that you want to feel the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. And just consider what we've discussed. The purpose of the world is that the Shekhinah should come down and be with us. You know, when we were in Poland, we showed the boys this last trip the film that Rav Noach Weinberg made when he was in Poland. And Rav Noach Weinberg should have a before Shlema. He said suddenly something which is so simple, but nobody thinks of it. So we all feel tremendous pain for our brothers that suffered during the Holocaust. But did anyone think about the pain of the Bari Olam? When Hashem suffered, a doctor has to make a nituach. A doctor has to save the life of a patient. And it's painful. But the patient lived. But what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how did Hashem feel? Auschwitz, Birkenau, Treblinka. In the same way today on Tisha B'av. As much as we're trying to feel ourselves the loss of tefillah, the loss of Torah, the loss of that one place of Kedushin Torah, the loss of the Malcolm where the Torah, the Hashpah Torah comes to the world, the Kaftor Perach, all that loss. Let's think about what is the Kodesh Baruch Hu doing in Golus? Shchinas of Golus. How does the Bar Olam feel about the fact that he can't come down to the Tachtonim where he wants to come? And that should be mis'ora us to get at least a little feeling of the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. And then we can hope and daven that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be Makayim what He has promised to us. He's promised to us that anybody who feels the tsar of the Beis HaMikdash and feels the loss and feels the gullus, the loss of the land in Yerushalayim, what it's meant to be, if you can feel that loss, then you'll be worthy of joining in the simcha of its rebuilding b'mheira b'yameinu. Should I talk now to the voice?
Yeah.
Impression.
He's clapping.